Hello and welcome back. My name is Anna Hendricks. I am a spiritual guide and teacher, Akashic Record Soul Channel, and the host of the Soul Driven podcast, where we explore the intersection of living a soulful and spiritual life in a driven and ambitious world. And sometimes I get so mixed up in introducing myself. So thanks so much for jumping back in. I'm really excited today to be covering the 7 main themes for 2026 as channeled from the Akashic Records. So if you're brand new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with me. Please make sure to subscribe if you enjoy this content, share it with someone who can benefit from it. I'm a channel of the Akashic Records. And also the Akasha and I are basically one and the same. I am very much here in this lifetime to guide, to assist, certainly in these times. And on my podcast, I channel a monthly Akashic forecast to help you in the month ahead. But I also do this for the yearly. And so be sure to check out the 2026 Akashic forecast episode, where we dove into the energies of 2026 and what is ahead for us. You will be able to hear the live reading that was channeled from the Akashic Records, which will activate your own beautiful channel, and you'll be able to see what it is that kind of came through. So the overall theme for 2026 is self-responsibility. And I know that probably sounds pretty boring, but I have to tell you what this is about understanding the innate power that we have to create change, to affect, to build a new world this year. This is huge. We are coming online in a way that we never have before. And, here within, especially here in the Western world, we were raised to depend upon others, whether it was our government, our politicians, our religious leaders, whatever the case may be. We have looked to others to assist us in creating the world that we want to live in. And it's so fascinating to me because, of course, that world was built for them, not actually for us. We've been meandering through life for decades, centuries, even with a blindfold on, believing that these people actually had our best interest in mind. And unfortunately, that's not the case, which we have very much been finding out already this year in 2026. But the point just being is that this year in 2026, we are taking our power back. We're remembering more about who we are. We're remembering like, oh, wait a minute. I am the creator of my reality. I get to decide who I want to be in these times. We get to decide what type of country we live in, what kind of planet we live on, how we take care of it, all of these different things. But first and foremost, it's about the self. And it's about how we take care of ourselves, what we do for ourselves, the ways in which we navigate our everyday. So make sure to check out the 2026 Akashic Forecast message. So again, you can activate your own channel and kind of see what it is that comes through that message for you. So today we're going to be diving into the breakdown of the 7 main themes under our overall general theme of self-responsibility. And I'm excited to look at these with you because, as we move throughout 2026, so much is going to be happening, and we are already seeing so much happening. I mean, this is an episode that I intended to record in the earlier part of January. And if you've been following my work, then I got sick for a couple of weeks and I've been playing catch up and just a number of different things. But quite frankly, when I sat back down with these 7 themes and recording this episode, it was just so perfectly divine that this kind of got put off, because guess what? We're already seeing every single one of these themes in action. And not only is the Akasha going to talk to you about it and talk to you about these themes that we're going to be moving through, but we have practical advice for you about how to navigate them. So if you know me, you know my work, I'm just as practical as I am spiritual. So let's dive in because we have a lot to cover today. Also, just really quick up front, I also have some really beautiful journaling prompts for you if you want to take these things even deeper. So make sure to come over to the Soul Driven Collective on Substack. You will find those journal prompts below this episode. And of course, they're free for you. They're just here to support you. But yeah, let's dive in. So, first and foremost, our first theme is digging deeper, seeing beneath the surface. This is a huge, huge theme for this year. And I mean, if you think about what's been taking place in the collective, we're already seeing it, right? We are already seeing a lot of people that were looked up to in the past realizing who they are. We've got people like Peter Attia and the health and wellness community, who's been named in the Epstein files. We've got all kinds of politicians as well. There's a number of things that are really starting to be picked apart this year. And I can tell you that as we move forward into 2026, if you are out there and you've got an audience and you have not been acting in integrity, guess what? Your name will be coming to the surface at one point in time or another. And this kind of, this is both, I think, a really exciting thing and also can be a really devastating thing, because if someone that you've known and loved and followed for a really long time, gets indicated in something that's very important, that's going to be difficult to navigate, right? You're not going to fully know how to feel about it. But the thing is, and this is really something that I've lived by since I was young, putting people on pedestals is the fastest way to heartbreak. And I'm talking about everybody, because we are all humans, we are all infallible. And nobody deserves your devotion. Nobody except for you. Please be devoted to self. Please be devoted to improving self, getting to know self, stepping more into who you are. It's not like I'm saying there's something wrong with you. What I'm saying is that we've all been conditioned to believe a lot of things about ourselves that aren't true. And in 2026, this is a big theme. We are going to see so many of those masks ripped off of people. So 2026 marks a collective call to look beneath what has always been accepted as truth. And this is happening across the board. This isn't just individuals being named. I don't know about you, but I'm a deeply spiritual person, and I spend a lot of time in the Akashic Records, which provides me a really beautiful perspective about life and about how things work. But I have been realizing over these past couple of months that the way the government works, the way the people in charge work, even these things for me, I thought it was so different. And, we certainly were taught that things were so different from a really young age, right? And those things are being ripped apart. We are realizing now that, I don't know, here in the US, there is not a lot that's actually for us, right? The pharmaceutical company is running our health and wellness, running what it is that we eat. Our government is taking our tax dollars and putting them in their own pockets. Meanwhile, we're sending money overseas to countries that don't need it, that have free healthcare, that have free college. And these are things we don't even have here within the United States, but yet we're sending them money. Like, it's insane, the things that are being uncovered in 2026. But this is just going to continue. For years, humanity has moved through life believing it understood the world, governments, and power structures and how they operate, right? But in reality, many forces have been working behind the scenes, manipulating attention, emotion, and fear. And I share this with you specifically because right now we are being invited into a game of distraction of the utmost. There's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. I thought it was so interesting that people are really starting to recognize what ICE is doing and how ICE is showing up and how ICE is absolutely abusing our population, not only immigrants, US citizens. And then all of a sudden, of course, Epstein files come out and our attention shifts there, right? And we start paying attention to that. And then Bad Bunny comes out and does the Super Bowl and we're like, ooh, okay, let's go over here. Ooh, let's go over here. Here within the United States, and I think really within the Western culture, we have been conditioned to be entertained. Entertainment is like our God in this society, which is why like Hollywood stars and singers and like they're so revered, they're so loved, worshipped even, right? Because in our culture, entertainment is God. Maybe it's video gaming, maybe it's shopping, maybe it's like it's crazy to me. But right now, the distraction game is really being amped up. And so I encourage you to really be paying attention to this, right? Those in power are aware that their systems are beginning to topple, and they are going to increase our distraction. They're going to heighten fear narratives. They are going to push misdirection and confusion into the collective in a really huge way, right? This is not the end of the world. This is the end of their world, and they know it, and they are starting to really freak out. And instead of running away, they're just going to amp it up. It's going to get louder. It's going to get harder. It's going to get more intense this year. And so that's why we have to buckle in and get our mind straight, get our heart straight, and really take care of ourselves, right? This unraveling will not happen overnight. It will unfold over many years. And if you listen to astrologers, this is probably going to go until the late 2027, even 2028, depending upon the certain topics. We have a ride in front of us. We have a marathon, and we've got to take one day at a time, right? So personal responsibility in 2026 looks like questioning what you are told, questioning what you see popping up in the news, what you see popping up on social media, not just like taking something at face value, like refusing to take things at face value, because it's going to be so important for you to be like, wait a minute, is this fear mongering? Is this really true? How do we know that this is happening? Anxiety, literally the definition of anxiety is trying to control the future because the future is not here yet. Right. And so we've got to be conscious and aware of that. I remember in the midst of 2020, when we went into lockdown, and there were all of these stories that were going on about all these different things that were going to be happening. And I realized very quickly on that I was going to have to take extra care of my energy and extra care of what I was reading and what I was taking in. And I remember reading something, I don't even remember what the topic was, but I remember like my whole like system went, oh, and it was like, wait a minute, this is not happening yet. And this may never happen. They're talking about this, but I have to stay in the here and I have to stay in the now, right? Because if I allow myself to get lost in that anxiety, what am I doing? I'm not living. I'm not present. I'm not enjoying life. I'm certainly not helping anyone around me, right? I'm lost in a future that may never arrive. And I can tell you the number one thing, well, not the number one thing, but one of the number one things that I know about the way the universe works, the way God works, what I've shown in the Akashic Records, like at any given moment, we have exactly what we need to make it through. Nothing shows up for us until we are ready for it. So if something really intense shows up for you, you will be ready for it. You don't have to worry about like, oh my gosh, I got to take care of all these things, right? Again, that's distraction. That is meant to throw you off course. They want you to get lost in fear. They want you to think that everything's going to be so horrible that, you know what I'm saying? Come back to center. Come back, place hands on heart, tune into the beautiful peace that is always here for you, and reconnect to what is true for you. I will tell you that if you need to take urgent action, your guides will step forward and alert you, and you will know. All right. We have to, again, self-responsibility for 2026. Ask how you want to live. Ask yourself, how do I want to live in this lifetime, right? We want to reflect on justice, fairness, and collective well-being. This is so important, right? There are no absolute right or wrongs, but there are paths that serve the whole versus one. And this is huge, right? This is literally like Pluto in Aquarius. The thing is that as humans, we're polarized. This planet is polarized. And we look at things as right or wrong, but actually nothing is. The universe doesn't look at it that way. We are the ones who place judgment on things instead of realizing like, oh, there's this thing that's happening. I get to decide how I feel about it, right? But we're moving into a time of the collective and rebuilding the collective. We're moving out of a time of me, and into a time of we. That's a shift that's happening. It's going to take a long time, right? So In regards to our first theme here of digging deeper, seeing beneath the surface, some of the things that we're going to see in regards to this year, eye-opening truths, right? Disturbing, shocking discoveries about people, places, things. I mean, it's going to come from all over the place, right? And again, if it's something that's like really intense, I encourage you to sit with it and to ask, like, wait a minute, is this for me? Do I need to get involved in this? Do I need to do something about this? Is this real? Remember, don't just take things at face value. And we'll also see information that feels both horrific and clarifying, right? Much of this has already existed, but it's been hidden in plain sight. And this is so fascinating for me going back and looking at these themes because I channeled them back in the early part of December. And we're seeing so much of this already coming into fruition, right? Some of it's loud and obvious, some of it not so much. Epstein files are certainly a huge example of shocking, horrific things coming to the surface, information, right? And I think that for the majority of us, like we always kind of knew there was something really wrong going on. We just didn't fully understand what, right? And I loved that the Akasha said this as well, like, much of this has always existed, but it's been hidden in plain sight. Again, any of these things that are horrible right now, ICE has been around for decades. We're just seeing what they're doing, like, in plain sight now. You know, the government, look, this has been happening since the beginning of time. This is not new stuff, but we're being shown it in plain sight. Why? So that we can decide if this is who we want to be moving forward. And again, first that happens on the personal level and then collectively, going back to that theme of self-responsibility in 2026. Okay, so second theme, which is a little bit more exciting, a little bit, so love rising to the surface. So in the midst of widespread difficulty and darkness, love will soften the collective heart. You know, like the collective heart is going to become softened. And again, I mean, we're already seeing this. I know that my heart has absolutely gone out to people in ways that, and I have a huge heart. I've always had a huge heart since I was a kid. I remember realizing like how big my heart was and being like, oh my gosh, I have to protect myself. I'm like tearing up just thinking about it, you know, but tearing up thinking about what the people of Minnesota are going through, those in Minneapolis, the surrounding areas, you know, people in Arizona, people in Portland, thinking about the survivors of the women from the Epstein files. Like, I am also a survivor. And I mean, like, just the horrors of this world, you know, like, and it's so interesting to me because I know for myself, I've talked about grief on in my podcasts multiple times, especially in 2025, because I really started to come into a new place with grief, realizing like grief absolutely rips your heart open. It helps you, like, you feel everything. And in the midst of that grief, you become more compassionate, more empathetic. You care, you know, like you're able to connect with other people more because you've also gone through that thing. Perhaps you're going to step into a place of teacher with someone else who's going through that thing. Like, it is such a both, it's like one of those dichotomies in life that's like darkness and hard times makes us such better people, more loving people, more connected with who we truly are, right? Increased compassion, empathy, and emotional awareness will emerge, right? Perspectives will expand, not only for the consciously aware, but also for those who are previously asleep. And again, we've been seeing this, you know, over the past couple of weeks, as more information about ICE came to the surface. And certainly after Trump put out those photos of the Obamas, like people were like, whoa, okay, I am realizing now that like I voted incorrectly, that I'm not on the side I want to be on, that this is too far, that this is, you know what I'm saying? Perspectives are expanding and people are starting to realize this. And this is, again, this is not just like, ooh, from a spiritual level. This is just like, this is our ethics. This is our morals. This is like who we want to be as people. You know, people who are originally like very firmly for Trump are now being like, whoa, this dude has crossed the line and this is not for me, right? And this is going to continue taking place. Because of course our hearts are expanding and people are putting themselves in the place of someone else, even people who are different than them, which is so powerful and which we need on the planet, right? Perspectives will expand. So people will begin to see more clearly, even if they once resisted, right? As truth surfaces, humanity will care more deeply for one another, show up for neighbors and communities, experience a softening of hardened identities and divisions. And again, we are already seeing this. This is something like I want to rejoice again and again and again about, because even in the midst of all of the darkness and all the tragedy and the horror, there are beautiful things that are happening here as we come together. Those living in Minneapolis, the people living in communities that are being terrorized by ICE right now are learning about community all over again. Without ICE being in these communities, they would have just gone on living their everyday life, doing their everyday thing. You know what I'm saying? Probably not looking at each other, probably not smiling. And now they are coming together, right? Because we're remembering it, like at our core, like we're all the same. We're remembering, like we're connected, right? So even deeply polarized groups will begin to shift in perception. And I don't know about you, but I'm all for this one because I am truly ruled by love and I only want to see love on this planet. There's nothing that I enjoy seeing more than someone who's like, oh, wow, okay, this way in which I was thinking or living or this perspective, I realize this is wrong. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. Like, I want to celebrate that. I am not someone who's like, ha ha, no way. Because you know what? All of us can get lost. And I've gotten lost before about things too. We're all human, right? Ultimately, what I most care about is that we're coming together. Mistake, no mistake, right? Love becomes a byproduct of shared hardship and awakening. And that is huge. Again, like in the most difficult of times, this is when humanity shows its very best. And not an easy thing, but a true thing. So, number 3, losing your voice to gain it. Now, this is a paradoxical theme, right? But many people are going to feel like they're losing their voice, right? So they're feeling silenced, ignored. They're uncertain about how to speak out at these times, right? But at the same time, there's a new aspect of their voice that is being activated. Now, this is the throat chakra at work because for so many of us, we have been shut down. Our ability to speak out, our ability to say what is wrong, our ability to stand up for others for a number of different reasons. I mean, I won't sit here and go through them because it's pointless. The bottom line just being is that we're going to all, like, not all, but like collectively, we are going to be finding our voices in ways that we never imagined this year. And so even if like right now in the midst of ICE and Epstein files and these things, you're thinking like, oh my gosh, how do I talk about this? What do I do? What's going on? Like you feel like you can't get involved. You don't know what to do. That's okay. That's okay. Because there's those of us like myself who have been talking about it nonstop, who are not going to quit, right? But about the time that we need a break, you all are going to get activated, and then you're going to be stepping in, and then like we'll be stepping back in. Like it's okay, right? What's important and what's beautiful is the fact that you're wanting to speak up, you're wanting to get involved, you're wanting to do something. Okay, so don't beat yourself up. Try not to compare yourself because it's coming for you. It's just a matter of time. All right. So long-standing throat chakra blocks are coming into awareness, right? Silence and suppression. In our past, like it, in our younger years, I know for myself, speaking has been actually a really difficult thing, which having a podcast has been one of the most helpful things for me, although it has taken several years to get to a place where I really feel like I can show up and fully be myself because so much about my voice was really shut down, right? And I'm sure that you're very much the same in one way or another. There are a few people who have not been, okay? But that silence, that suppression, that time was not wasted. We were actually being honed. It was very preparatory for all of us. Okay. So again, have compassion for yourself. The Akasha said 2026 is a year of reclaiming voice, learning how to speak more clearly and boldly, becoming louder and more intentional. What is your intention to speak out? What is your intention? Like, truly, I think that's so important because I can tell you, as someone who speaks regularly, like obviously on this podcast, I speak with a lot of people, right? But it always comes back to what is my intention? When I'm speaking from my heart, ooh, it comes, it flows, it's easy. When I'm speaking from ego, when I'm speaking from fear, it gets stuck in my throat. It gets like, oh, it's hard for me, right? And I've learned that. And I encourage you to pay attention, right? So our voices will become more critical moving forward, especially for certain individuals. Not everyone is called to speak out the way that I do. You know, I've had so many business owners who are like, Anna, are you crazy? All you're doing is talking about politics right now. And I'm like, I know, but like, this is where my heart is. And this is like how I'm showing up. And this feels most aligned for me. And that's really all I can say about that. And if people don't want to follow me or they don't want to listen to me, that's okay, you know, because this is important and I have to speak. That is me. That may not be you and that may never be you. And that is okay. You can assist in other ways. There are unlimited opportunities. You could invent something, you could share something, you could donate to something, there are so many different ways. Okay. But guess what? Even if you aren't a voice like out in the collective, like this is also like on a personal level. So you will see this within your family, within your relationships, maybe at work. You know what I'm saying? Like your voice is going to be opening up. Expression is invited on every level: personal, social, spiritual, collective. All right. You are needed. You are needed. All right. Number four's theme, our fourth theme. A wider expanse of perception. Okay, so we have been living a very narrow, we've had a very narrow lens on life. Even I have. Yeah, you know, this is all of us in one way or another, because like nobody's perfect, nobody's got it, nobody has all the answers, nobody knows everything. I don't freaking care who you are. Like everyone has been woken up since like 2019 in like a huge way. 2020, I should say, since we went into the lockdown. Like it jolted us out of our lives, and it's going to continue doing that because change is needed, right? But these narrow perspectives, like they are dissolving. And again, like I was just talking about how I used to view our world, kind of like our politics, like all of these things dissolving, right? Dissolving. Hollywood dissolving. I have honestly never been someone who worshiped Hollywood, never been someone who worshiped like the singers that like I love music. If you know me, I'm like basically always playing music. But I just, again, I learned at a very young age that like you cannot put anyone on a pedestal because they will fall at some point and you'll be angry and mad at them. And it's not their fault. It's your fault because you're walking around putting a human on a pedestal. Like, what are you thinking? Like, we are all infallible. Nobody's great. Like everyone is going to fall short, right? That's the person you love in the most in this world is the one that hurts you the most. You know, our family, our friends, like why? Because we love them. Like nobody is perfect. Okay. And when we also look out at our systems and our structures, you know, especially here in the United States, like these ideas about how things were, like it's dissolving and it must, right? So all beliefs about how life must work will be challenged across the board, right? We've got Neptune, we've got Saturn moving into Aries, like forget it, y'all. They have been moving through Pisces, and Pisces, the number one word that I use to describe Pisces is fog. Okay. And that fog is going to be lifted in a very, very real way. And you know, probably every single one of us are going to have at least one person where we're going to be like, oh man, really? You better than this. And I don't mean to laugh if you are someone who's honestly going through a grieving process about someone you used to put on a pedestal, you know, Deepak Chopra, right? Like so many people in the spiritual community, I can't even tell you. Like when I first stepped into the new age spiritual world, he always gave me the creeps. He was always weird and icky to me. And so many people like ostracized me because of it. And guess what? we're seeing the truth now, and I love it. I don't love it. I'd honestly rather be wrong, but you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of people who really looked up to some of these individuals, they're going through a grieving process, and that is very real, and you need to honor that, right? So our vision, mental, emotional, spiritual perspectives are widening significantly this year. We're all going to be different people by the time we get through 2026. Like, come on, we're in February, and are you kidding me? Like, if you can't wrap your mind around that, I don't know what to tell you. You're clearly not paying attention because shit is changing. We are also changing in the midst of it, right? So ideas that no longer serve will fall away. And I encourage you to let them go. You know, I've been doing 2026 Akashic readings with clients, and it's been fascinating because for a lot of them, I've been seeing like it's so important for them to move quickly through this year when it comes to deciding that something isn't for them anymore, to not like get caught up in like, oh, well, maybe I should think about this, or maybe I should weigh the pros and no, if it's doesn't feel good, go, move, because it's not for you right now. And you've got to learn how to trust yourself, right? So ideas that remain will be expanded, be restructured, and they will look very different than they have before. Again, we've been moving through Neptune, Saturn, and Pisces. Neptune has been in Pisces for 14 years. Okay. It's a full 14-year cycle for Neptune always. That's a lot of time. And guess what? Neptune rules Pisces. So Neptune also is fog. That's fog on top of fog. Neptune is a collective planet, and that is where we've been. We have been like swimming through the muck, like, oh, okay, what is this, right? And all of a sudden, we're stepping in Aries. Aries is ruled by the Fool card. Aries is the child of the zodiac. Aries is where we begin. Aries is war. Aries is masculine energy. Aries is, whew, yeah, there's no fog with Aries, okay? For better or worse, all right? So that mask is going to be ripped off in huge ways. So this expansion will not stop in 2026. It's going to continue into the years ahead. Theme number 5, our lower chakras coming on board. So we're going to see major energetic shift from our upper chakra dominance to full body grounding. And quite frankly, this is going to be because we must. In order to survive these times, in order to thrive in the midst of these times, we're going to have to go down deep, right? We are going to have to wrestle with the shadow sides of our lower chakras, right? Which is like tuning in, fear, like, you know, not believing in ourselves, like all of these things, right? That we've got the root, which the root is oh, I love the root chakra so much. When I feel rooted in my root chakra, like, dude, I am unstoppable, but I'm a very upper chakra being. My guides tell me all the time that I really struggle to be in my human body, which I really do. And if you've ever heard me talk about how I ground, it's like driving like Mach 10 down the highway. I'm an excellent driver, by the way. But you know, I ground by getting on an airplane. I ground by movement. A lot of people love stillness, love like, you know, bare feet on grass. That's no, thank you for me. You have to figure out what works for you. Okay. But this year we're going deep, right? Our sacral chakra, it rules our vitality, our sexuality, the very essence of who we are. And make no mistake about it, it is a very spiritual chakra. You know, the upper chakras, especially the crown, get so much like oomph around spirituality. Hell no. The sacral chakra is like, da, 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 da. And those who are very grounded in their sexuality are extremely powerful beings and extremely spiritual. Okay. And I forgot to mention, if you aren't rooted in your root chakra, then you will have a very difficult time connecting with your spiritual self, because you must be rooted in order to go up. Okay. And then of course our solar plexus, right? Our solar plexus is the I am. This is like our energy center that like fuels the things about who we are and how we feel about ourselves, right? Again, going back to the 2026 Akashic forecast, our overall theme of self-responsibility. We are remembering that we are the creators and we create from the solar plexus. Okay. So lower chakra beings, we're really stepping into this, right? Many of us have lived disconnected from safety, stability, embodiment. 2026 is supporting us in facing our fears and our insecurities, in building a solid internal and external foundation in our life. And again, I mean, we're going to kind of be pushed into this almost from a way of survival, because I don't know about you, but I've already halfway through February had to make some major adjustments about how I am moving through my everyday so that I can stay grounded in the midst of so much that is unraveling right now, because I am deeply plugged into the collective, deeply, deeply, deeply pained when I see humans hurting other humans. And it's been nothing short of difficult for me over the past, since we stepped into 2026 in a really huge way. And this is you on whatever level that it's hitting you, right? So grounding will become much easier for you this year if you're someone who struggled with that, but it will come through effort. So you must figure out how you ground best. And all you have to do is jump on Google and be like, hey, what are some grounding practices? And it will give you tons and tons and tons. We're all different. So you got to find the one that works for you. So the benefits of becoming more grounded in our lower three chakras and really focusing on them this year is clear inner guidance, right? Because I mentioned, if we are grounded in our root chakra, like, poof, man, can we go up? Easier self-connection. Because again, reconnecting to who we are, and we are powerful. We don't need to live in a world that's falling apart. We don't need to live underneath people who are like stealing everything from us, making us sick, literally kind of destroying our lives. We don't need to do that. The February Akashic forecast, the guides literally said very directly, this will only last as long as you allow it to. We are in control, right? Greater energetic stability. Learning how to work with your energetics this year is a non-negotiable. Learning how to show up for yourself every single day is a non-negotiable. I actually, one of the practices that I've really been leaning into is clearing out my chakras, like every morning, first thing, pretty much. And it was wild because when I first started doing it, I actually have a toning practice. If you've been around my work, I've shared it like a million times. I always share it. Feel free to reach out to me if you want it. But the whole point just being, it's like, it was rough for the first couple of days. I could really tell that my chakras were so weighed down by heaviness and gook. And guess what? We're spiritual beings. Back in Atlantean times, we did this on a daily basis. We went to healers on a weekly basis, and we worked with practitioners anytime we went through something difficult in life to ensure that energy did not get stuck and lodged in our body. That's why we didn't get sick in those times, or we didn't have diseases, those sorts of things. Okay. Energetic management is huge. All right. So, this grounding is essential to anchor the massive, massive changes other way. I mean, I got to tell you, that's why I said it's like kind of from a survival place, like do or die, baby. It's totally up to you. Energetic support is available, but conscious participation is required. So if you're going to figure out how to best ground, how to get into your body, like, don't just try on something, like be present with it, see if it works for you. Okay. And this kind of goes hand in hand with theme number 6, the awakening of the body. And this is huge. This is like so much of what my work is kind of centered around, because if you have been around for a while, you've heard me talk about how the body is our greatest gift in life. It is our intuitive channel. It is like the beginning and the end of our experience through this human world, right? So the body can no longer be bypassed. Like, it's done and done. Like, if you want to ignore your body, that is absolutely to your detriment. And I mean that in the most grandest of ways. Physical diseases, mental diseases, like all kinds of things will be showing up for you. And it's important for you to take care of your body. Okay. First and foremost, we want to look at it from an energetic standpoint. Okay. So before you go out and get on a diet and exercise is actually really great energetic management, as is eating food. But I'm saying like energetic management, like if I was going to put them in order of importance, it's energetic management. Okay. Exercise, moving your body, and then eating. Okay. Because guess what? If you do energetic and movement, Eating correctly will be so much easier for you. I guarantee you. Okay. Somatic awareness, nervous system regulation, embodiment are moving to the forefront, right? So concepts like central nervous system dysregulation, somatic healing, right? These are going to become lived experiences, not just ideas for us. And it's perfectly divine that somatic practitioners have been blowing up, over this past year. It's literally for these times. I have done a number of somatic trainings myself just to assist myself in my mentorship containers and also in the work that I'm doing with people, but also for myself and understanding the body even more. So if you are drawn to this work in any way, shape, or form, there's tons and tons of information. You don't have to sign up for a course. Just go to freaking YouTube. There are so many incredible practitioners that are teaching so much. There's an enormous amount of free information out there that you can like dive in and start coming to understand, right? So humanity has long neglected the body, right? Physically, emotionally, energetically. And this is a non-negotiable moving forward. Working with emotions, these types of things is going to be a huge focus in my business moving forward. It has been for years. But on a smaller level. But it's enormous, right? Because emotions are energy, and what happens when we take on a lot of emotions, we're not, dispelling them. So 2026, avoidance is no longer possible when it comes to caring for your body. Hate to tell you, but I encourage you to make it fun. I encourage you to make it adventure, because guess what? If you can step into a new place with your body, all of life will be different for you. And that's pretty freaking exciting, right? So you are invited and required, really, to, number one, develop a new relationship with your body. And I encourage you to make it one of love. I have one particular client, when I did her 2026 Akashic reading, like they literally were like, this is the year you're coming on board in a totally new place with your body, right? Like, and it was really in her emphasis. And they weren't talking about diet or exercise. They were talking about like, how do you speak to your body? What do you think when you look at yourself in the mirror? Like, what are the words that you say when you're getting dressed? You know what I'm saying? Like, how are you treating your body? And if you saw someone else doing the same to their body, what would you say? Would you be like, yeah, girl, that's right, you look good? Or would you be like, oh man, like be nice to yourself, please, right? Like think about it. Or your daughter, if you have a daughter, right? And this is not just for women, but because women, we're just taught from a young age that our bodies are so wrong no matter what they look like. So the majority of us are struggling with how our bodies look or feel or whatever the case in some way. But think about like if we had a daughter and our daughter was talking to herself the way we're talking to ourselves, how would we feel about that, right? Something to consider. So number two, listening deeply to messages that your body wants to share with you. Taking a moment, maybe before you're going to eat or sit down to make something to eat, like tuning in. What would you like to eat today? What would feel good to you? What would, and I guarantee you, your body's not always going to say broccoli. Sometimes it will say ice cream and you'll be like, yes. And you'll appreciate and love that ice cream. Years back, and I've done a lot of work around this, talked about it on the podcast and also in blogs and whatnot. But I remember in a session with a client, the Akashic Records told her, she was really struggling to lose weight. And they were like, look, it's not the food that makes you gain weight. It's the way you feel about the food that makes you gain weight. It's the energy, the ways in which you're beating yourself up before you sit down to eat, beating yourself up in the middle of eating, beating yourself up after eating. Like that is the energetic weight that actually compiles and eventually builds up into physical weight. Okay. Number three, adapt as the body itself changes. Our bodies are going to go through massive changes this year because everything around us is changing and we're all connected. We're all feeling these changes on so many different levels, right? And so it's important for us to pay attention to those things, right? So how you meet your body will determine how you experience this transformation cycle on the planet. And it's that huge. So, okay, last but not least, number 7, expansion of world power and global closeness. So the world is going to feel so much smaller and more connected, right? Distance, physical, political, cultural is going to collapse in huge ways this year. Obviously, it's not going to 100% collapse, but we're going to see it collapsing in a really major way. Like I shared, even in the first theme, right? It's like people who've been thinking one way for a while are going to be realizing they think something else, or they're going to be shifting. It's we are realizing like we're so connected, and that's a really beautiful thing. Global events are going to feel more personal and immediate. You know, there's so much that's been happening on this planet for since the beginning of it. And I know here in the US, you know, like 10 years ago, yeah, we would see like in the headlines in a newspaper, like, oh, you know, this country got hit by this massive hurricane and basically just got leveled. And we'd all be like, oh, that's so terrible. And maybe we'd send some money, or maybe we'd throw a benefit concert. And then we go right back to our daily lives. And you know what I'm saying? That's not how things work anymore. And it's a beautiful thing, right? Now it's like, holy crap, this is what's happening in this country, and this is what's happening in this country. And it's again because so many of us are starting to go through hard times. And so we're really thinking, we're really feeling. These are beautiful things, but we have to take care of our energetic capacity as well, because we can't take on everything. And this is such a massive lesson for me, like continuously, like, oh, hey, Anna, reel back in, because honey, you are not the savior of humanity. And you can't think about all of these things at one time. You don't have the energy for it. And then you wonder why, like, your personal life is, you know what I'm saying? Like, be prudent in how much you're spending out, right? People will recognize how deeply intertwined they are with other nations, governments, collective choices, right? So understanding the other becomes a gateway to greater awareness, expanded consciousness, deeper unity. And this, you know, by the time we get through 2026, we're going to really be in a different place on a collective level, which is going to feed into the changes that we will be enacting in 2027 and 2028. And it's going to be rough because, again, like, we don't change in the midst of comfortable times. We change when things are hard, right? So an overall sort of summary here, 2026 is a year of revelation over illusion. And again, that's really the Saturn Neptune like shifting into Aries. This is just huge, right? Grounding over bypassing. You know, we can't ignore our body anymore. We can't. I spent like the first kind of 2 weeks of January like really sick. And that was, I think, part of it. Like, I was just, first of all, I was just working way too much. I was doing way too many things. And my guides were like, sit down. Right? Be smarter than me, right? Number 3, voice over silence. And I'm really excited for this one. Number 4, embodiment over disconnection. Number 5, compassion born from truth. And number 6, right? Yeah. Expansion through discomfort. I got bullet points, y'all, but I don't have numbers. Expansion through discomfort. And this is really like, we're going to see this so much. This is a profound threshold year, and it is definitely setting up the foundation for what follows. You know, like I mentioned in the 2026 Akashic forecast episode, like, there were so many different timelines open and available for us collectively. What are we going to choose? What are we going to choose, right? This is the year where we decide. This is the year where we begin to enact and set things up for ourselves. And I, for one, am extremely hopeful, and I'm here to guide and assist wherever I can. So, offering you up so much love. Thank you for being here. I'd love to hear how this resonates with you. I'd love to know which theme really stood out. Make sure to come join the Soul Driven Collective on Substack if you want those journaling prompts, or feel free to just like leave me a comment and I'll just throw them in below. That way it's easy for you. But thank you so much for being here. Be sure to share this with someone, and don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next time.